hello to all three of my loyal viewers out there. And all three of them are probably just some of my friends. For once, I'm actually going to be uploading a video that isn't Apex Legends, and I'm going to be switching it up and doing a 500-day Minecraft World Tour. Now, this was a world that I started last summer when I got diamond ranked on Apex Legends. Honestly, I just made this because I needed a break from the grind, and I just wanted to relax and play some Minecraft. And since last summer, I've been playing on and off through college and soccer and work and all that stuff. But I did just reach 500 days, and so I feel like that's kind of like a good benchmark to make a new video about it. I may or may not continue making videos about this world. I plan on making a fresh world and starting a series on that one, but maybe I'll continue my series on my main world, depending on if I have anything interesting going on, but we'll see, because, whenever I don't have any big projects going on or any, goals that I'm going for, I'm just doing, busy work, collecting things, doing chores, farming. This is kind of boring. So unless I got something really, really, really interesting, then I probably won't. But like I said, we'll see. Also, for some lore, I made this world with the intention of playing it as a hardcore world because back then, when I first made it, Bedrock didn't have hardcore. But now that it does, it's kind of awkward. I can't change it back. The whole thing's just schmuck. So I haven't died the entire time I played this. And I'm not going to lie, I have no proof to show you that I haven't died, and there's exactly 0 reasons for you to trust me, but, you're just going to have to take my word for it. If you believe me, cool. If you don't, cool. Honestly, doesn't matter that much to me. Just wanted to throw that out there, and I'm going to continue to try to play this world as if it was hardcore since I can't switch it to an actual hardcore mode. So, just to start, I'm going to show you what the day 1 world looked like when I first loaded in, and just so you can get a direct comparison to how much the world has changed. And let me tell you, a lot has changed. So let's get to it. Okay, so this is where I initially spawned at whenever I made this world. Not really ideal with the powdered snow nearby, but you can see this is kind of like the surrounding area, not really too much. I do eventually fly past this area. I first stationed here and then I went past this mountain. And as you're going to be seeing very soon, there's going to be a small village on the hillside, which, it was pretty useful at the start, just gathering some food, maybe a couple tools or something like that. But just ahead of the village is kind of clearing by this mountain right here. As you can see, there's some trees right there. And as we fly a little bit closer, you're going to see that, a lot of it is actually pretty flat. And of course, me liking having flat land so that I can build, I saw that it was generally flat and thought, could probably level this out to be one level and make a very, very, very flat area and build my base here. As you can see, just a little 360 of the area. And yeah, now you're about to see the full scale of the base. And as you can see, this is the current iteration of the base so far. And, just going to get a nice big old sweeping view of everything. Clearly, this is not naturally flat anymore. The beacon's right there, and you can see that unnatural-ass stone wall right there. Yeah, I did a lot of landscaping to make this even flatter than normal. And, yeah, this is just kind of what it looks like right now. You can see I got a barn, some ghasts, got a little nether portal over there. This is the house that I'm in. And, of course, the giant water temple that, we'll take some explaining on how exactly that got there. But yeah, this is just kind of the general setup that I got for right now for day 500. And yeah, I'll be giving you guys a little bit of a tour about it. So just to start, this is the kind of front face of my house. I'm on the balcony right now that just kind of overlooks everything. And we're going to be going inside. This is kind of like a main area that just leads to outside. Got a couple windows to look at the monument and the farm, but nothing really crazy out here. Mostly just views and open space. But we're going to be going to the bedrooms. This is my bedroom, my main area. But right behind that painting right there, you're going to see that I can actually walk through it into a second room where there's going to be a guest room in here. As you can see, got another bed, shulker boxes, got some glowberry plants, and just a lot of stuff in here, as a little secret guest room for, aesthetic, just for that. And we're going to be going back to my room, got a little painting to cover that up. And now we're going to be going downstairs. Now, this is just more open space, lots of storage here, as you can see by the double chest, the ender chest. In here, you kind of have the kitchen table area. I got the furnaces on the wall, and generally just a very open area, and more windows just to look out. And as you can see, It's just very spacious, and we're going to take a look at the chest, and you can see that I got a lot of high-tier stuff just from playing for almost 500 days, just a lot of really good gear in the double chests scattered throughout the house, and also, I got some pretty good stuff in my ender chest as well. And yeah, this is just kind of like my main house that I live in and that I built. And I also have this little balcony here, but to be honest, I almost never used it. All right, now moving on to more of the main area. As you can see, got a little farm here with some happy gas. It's a little bit messy. It's just mostly just chickens and sheeps and cows and stuff like that. I definitely do got to work on separating the two, but as you can see, I got 2 happy gas from the Nether. I just brought them over to the overworld after that update came out. It was one of the first things I did. And then you got a little pathway right here, which leads to this little pond/stream area. I don't really know what to call it, but it's just a nice little natural floral kind of area. I got some lily pads, got a little stream that goes in along here, got flowers and trees. I do plan on adding fish and frogs into this too, just to give it more of a natural feel, if that makes sense. And of course, one of my favorite builds, I walk over here and there's this amazing enchantment table area. Now, to be fair, this was not a max enchantment table. As you can see, it only goes up to level 24 rather than 30. But this was my own design that I created. And honestly, I'm really proud of how it turned out. I think it looks really, really cool. And, it's just, more for show, more than, for actual, practical use. Again, another custom build, this Nether Portal design I created myself. I experimented a little bit in creative before I brought it over onto this world and decided with this final design. And honestly, I think it turned out pretty good. I'm really happy with the design. Again, on this world, I've tried to do a lot of custom building on my own. As you can see, another little build. We got a little campsite with the campfire, got some chairs around it right next to the woods. And then right here, I got a couple of sleeping bags in the ground for the, for the tent aesthetic and for the camping aesthetic. And honestly, again, really happy with it. Just another custom build that I am happy with. All right. Moving on from all of that stuff, we have this barn right here. And just like the water monument, I 100% YouTubed this design. I am not creative enough to, come up with a design like this on my own. I started gathering a lot of horses. This pen right here is where all of my more prized horses are at, my favorite horses. This is why they have the gold and diamond armor compared to the other ones. Not that I don't like the other ones, but these are like my, my best breeding horses. So that's why I have them all right here, just for breeding purposes. And then, of course, you go into the next pen. Not quite as good in terms of breeding purposes, but a lot of these guys are pretty fast. And as you're gonna see, I got Zoom, Savitar, both right here. 2 names from the Flash show, just to show that they're fast. And I'm a fan of the Flash. But these are not quite as good all around as the other horses, but generally these are my faster horses, or horses that have one really strong trait that I would like to try to breed with the other horses to get a a god horse. And then, I got these openings right here. Not that the horses use them, but it's just for the aesthetic. I think about maybe letting them wander around, but, I would have to gate off the main door just so that they don't go wandering around, outside and everything, Just, something like that. So I keep them in their pens. This is mostly for aesthetic. But then we got this terrible little shack over here. And I'm sure you wouldn't even be able to guess with how terrible this design is. But it is actually a brewing house just for a lot of my potions right here. It's not really that good, but, So for this next portion, I'm actually going to be turning on some cheats. That way I can go into spectator mode and just fly around and show you a couple of the things that are a little bit, further out there away from the base or not as easy to, show off. And I guess this can just be a little bit of proof that, I didn't use any cheats whenever I was making this world and making all of these things that you see now. It was all done legitimately. And, no cheats were used, just me in survival mode and just, putting in the time over the last year or so, being on and off on this world. But as I said, I'm going to be going into spectator mode just to show you the ancient cities that are nearby. Because as I'm sure you guys have picked up, I have a lot of enchanted gear. And a lot of that is due to the fact that this seed generated with several ancient cities nearby. Now, as you can see, there's this little strip mine here that I created when I first generated this world, when I first came across that village and was living there for the, the first few days. And as you can see, this strip mine does go down pretty deep. And on the right, you can see one of the ancient cities that I found. And this one I actually found through a mountain pass. As you can see, there's a waterfall on the right with the torch there. That's how I kind of tunneled down here into this. And yeah, this is just one of the many ancient cities here. And a fun fact about this ancient city, actually, there is actually a trial chamber nearby this ancient city, right around the corner, very, very close. I haven't raided it yet, actually. I definitely do need to do that. But yeah, this is just one of the, I think, 2 or 3 ancient cities that are nearby on this world near the spawn. And as you can see clearly, the last time I was down here, I was busy messing with a warden, which is honestly, nothing too unusual. Spawn that man and then you just run, and then he just kind of lingers here until he despawns. But yeah, the trial chamber is right here again. Like I said, haven't hit it yet, kind of afraid to hit it because of the deep dark. But yeah, this is one of the nearby ancient cities. So going back into the strip mine real quick, we're just going to be visiting the other 2 ancient cities that I mentioned earlier. This is actually the first one that I ever came across on this world. And honestly, it's been so long, I low-key forgot what it looked like. I just knew where it was. But yeah, no, this is the very first ancient city that I looted on this world, back when I first began. And because I knew I was in an area where there was a lot of deep dark and a lot of ancient cities, once I got into this city and looted it, I decided to continue the straight mine just in a straight line for the strip mine. And as you can see, this actually connects directly to another ancient city. However, I will say that the only reason why I knew to continue straight, outside of the fact that I knew that there was a lot of deep dark, was because I actually found it in a natural cave formation. As you're going to see here, there's going to be this tower right here. And as you can see, you go up the tower and this exits into a very open cavern right here. And actually made my way down here with this little staircase, as you can see right here, and that's when I just got to establishing the fact that I was going to loot this area. I would also like to say that because I saw the coordinates and how close it was to the old one, I figured, okay, I should be able to dig straight into the other ancient city and connect the 2 with a single linear strip mine. So yeah, again, just another ancient city. There's a few that were near my spawn. You got the one that I showed you from earlier, and then 2 connected directly to each other. Back onto the surface now, I'm going to be taking you to the raid village, which is very, very close to the house, as you'll see very soon here. It's a bit of a short flight or hike or walk, whatever case you want to use. But yeah, this is where I got my totems of undying. I just built a wall around these villagers and found a pillager tower and, just initiated a raid with the Bad Omen bottle. And, it's not completely barren. There's a couple villages here. A couple of them did die. But yeah, this is where I got my totems from. And now I will show you the area where I got the water temple from. Alright, so after a little bit of flying or boating or, whatever methods of travel, I will arrive here. And as you can see, my strategy was just to put sand all over the sides of the water temple. And then my original plan was to try and drain it, but I did not know how to do that. And I generally just dug straight from underwater. And what I did was I made a little sand pathway down underneath and started digging with Aqua Affinity, Depth Strider, and all that stuff. I admittedly made it way harder than it needed to be. I didn't use a conduit till the last probably 25% of the structure was left over. But as you can see, I kind of picked everything clean. The conduit is still in the water, and this is where I got every single block from the water temple from. And I spent many, many days here. It almost took me 100 days total. All right, and next up is going to be the Nether Portal and the Nether Fortress that I found. Now, just kind of nothing too crazy. I just kind of spawned in a basalt biome, made myself a little hut, as you can see here. Nothing too crazy, made out of netherrack and brick and, just a bunch of random shit I found together. And then, honestly, I just kind of tunneled. I tunneled straight, I tunneled right, I tunneled left, I tunneled in every direction. The one that goes straight ahead and right didn't really find anything, but the one on the left led to a bastion, and so I looted that to get my netherite upgrade that I have. I haven't put anything to netherite yet, but I did raid this bastion, as you can see by the dirt tower and the wool tower. And now I made a little cobblestone trail from the top of that bastion. As you can see, it's a little easy to follow just because, I made it so close together. And basically you just follow this cobblestone trail straight ahead all the way until it leads eventually to the Nether Fortress. Generally, I don't use it anymore because I can just fly straight there. But this was like my main area of transportation whenever I didn't have my elytra at the time, and I just kind of walked over here. And lastly, the only thing left that I have to show you guys is my end fortress stronghold thing, whatever. As you can see, I had a little tower here and, set up a little camp where I burned some trees just to know that this is where the end portal was. This little stable right here was for my horse Buddha, who, unfortunately died while I was fighting the Wither. I was using him to move around and evade the Wither, and towards the end he got shot and he died. So pretty sad. But I just made a spiral staircase going down, 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 straight to the end fortress, as you can see right there. There's also a lush biome nearby, which is pretty neat. But once you get to the bottom, there's a little staircase, and you can see where I kind of tunneled in from that spiral that I built. And honestly, after I got here, I just scouted up the whole area, and I made a little wool system. So you can see I got some wool blocks right here. And generally, all you got to do is just follow the wool blocks, and they will lead you straight to the end portal. I did explore the rest of the fortress. There wasn't really too much. There was one mending book and some eye trims, which is nice. But outside of that, generally just a normal, stronghold. There was a little skulk in here, which was kind of weird, kind of a random generation type thing, but no shriekers or anything, thankfully. But yeah, as you can see, I'm just following the wool to the best of my ability. The path is pretty easy to follow. Sometimes you gotta just double check to make sure you're going the right way. But you go far enough and it will take you straight to the end portal. I forget what day I killed the Ender Dragon on. It was pretty early on, if I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, this is pretty much just a straight trail that goes straight to the portal. There's a second library over there. Then you turn this corner, and right here is the end portal. And that just about does it for my 500-day world tour. Now, kind of like what I said at the start, I don't really know if I'm going to be making any more videos on this world unless I got like a super large project going on, like with this water temple, or, I have something ambitious going on. I am going to make a separate version of this world, like a separate download, and I'm going to make it a realm for some of my friends to play on. So, I am planning on having that. Maybe I'll make a video on how the realm looks after a while. Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, I figured I might as well make a video on this world. 500 days, pretty neat. I got a lot done. Even though I haven't been, fully dedicating my time to this world, I still think that it's pretty neat. And I'm pretty happy with how everything is going so far. I don't know about any more Minecraft videos on this world, like I said, but I do want to make a new series sooner rather than later, before school starts again. And we'll just have to see where that goes after this video goes up. But yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed. Tell me what you think about this, world that I got. If you want to see more, or, if you want to see more videos like this. But yeah, hope you guys have a good day.